sir, I speak on behalf of the Nationalist Congress Party in this 193 on the Ukraine and Russia situation. So there is no glory in the battle worth the blood it costs. So I take this thought forward, which Sumati, my colleague and friend, mentioned earlier, that nobody really wins a war. It's only war widows, children who are orphaned many times, and mothers who just have people telling them, your son was a brave son who's never going to come back. So it's a very, very painful situation. The television that we've been watching, the media reports that are coming, it's a very, very painful times I think the world is watching today. We have to take sides. We are judging people what is right or wrong. But truly what is really right in any war is something I've never understood. I would like to thank the Ministry of External Affairs and the leader who leads it, Sri Jaishankarji. And this is the second time I'd like to thank him for the COVID intervention that his entire team did. I think was just most wonderful, and I think the only thought that I have in mind as a Member of Parliament is gratitude towards your department, because in the most challenging times during the COVID, MEA was one mantralaya that all you had to do is just tweet, and within minutes, I mean, people sort of thought that it was flattering for us. They thought we were so influential in India that we could actually help people all over the world. And I think we got a lot of blessings thanks to you, but we won't forget to pass them on, because they actually deserve at the MEA doorstep, not as ours. We are only agencies to do that. So this department and the entire team globally has done wonderful work during COVID. And then came another situation, which was this Operation Ganga. Operation Ganga, I do understand, it has its moments. And Dr. Tharoor has spoken extensively about it. But I don't think we should even forget all the airlines who helped us. I mean, it's unfortunate that India doesn't have its own airline anymore, but all the Indians came together. It was not about who owned the airline, whether it was private, whether it was government, but everybody unitedly supported it and brought all our children back. But I think the only disappointment for me, I mean, it was Dr. Abdullah also said that it was very, very brave of the ministers to go. Even I felt that when I saw all the ministers there, and I used to wonder what their families must be going through. It felt almost like you sent a soldier to war on a border, what his or her family go through. But clearly they went. But I think the disappointing scenes for us, which I really didn't want to criticize, because they had done such wonderful work, had one thing you had not done. This was actually a fast shot which had just gone flawlessly for you, is the jingoism that came at the end of it, which was very painful because you had done such wonderful work. And fortunately, I didn't see you doing it, so there was hope for me in this government that one of my most favorite ministers didn't do it, because he really showed dignity and class, because we are not doing a favor to our children by bringing them. Bacche hamare, लाना हमारी जिम्मेदारी है, and they are our children, they are not yours and mine, and everybody's children study abroad. My son studies abroad now. My daughter is aspiring to go abroad. So there's nothing right or wrong ki jinko kam mark mile isliye vaga. I think it's very, very unfortunate to judge our children. Children look for opportunities. And here at globalization, we can't say ki jo Bharat mein padega wohi acha bachcha hai, jo pardesh mein gaya usko kam mark mile. I think these are very unfortunate, careless statements, and we in this house must be very, very respectful and make sure that we don't make such statements, especially at such times. But this Operation Ganga went out exceptionally well. I remember a mother. I would like to put his Vandana from my constituency. Her son is becoming a doctor because he didn't get the marks, didn't get the admission. She would call me every day and cry. She was a helpless mother who was running from pillar to post. Ki koi mere bacche ko theek se laye. And then he was walking. They were doing everything to help each other. And the MEA was very, very kind, and I'd really put our gratitude on record for everything that you have done for our children. What I would like to highlight in this entire discussion is the Russian military imports, and in the foreign policy, we constantly talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, how are we going to take this relationship forward? with Russia is something we'll have to introspect, because a lot of times what happens is we are dependent on them. It's wonderful to be Atmanirbhar for any human being and a nation. So even in defense, when we take programs forward, this last week I had the opportunity to ask this question to the Honorable Defense Minister. There are a lot of Indian companies. There's one company which happens to be in my own constituency, Bharat Forge, which really wants to work in defense exports and making India Atmanirbhar. So you think we could work better, because the whole world is changing? Is this new word which has come, that the new order world? I think it's a new connotation we've all come up with. So new world order. So the new world order, are we going to rethink all this? And we will very soon have to react and see how indigenous companies' products need to be brought out, and all our Indian companies to be helped to, I'm not saying we stop buying from Russia, it's not something, or any other country in the world, but in the Atmanirbhar scheme, what more and what intervention would you like to do that? Talking about human rights, a lot of, even the Honorable Home Minister yesterday talked about human rights, and it's of the person who suffers is the human rights we're talking about. I appreciate what he said yesterday, but today, even if we are pro-Russia or pro-whichever country in the world we want, today what is happening in Ukraine is unpardonable for anybody. What have those children, those women done that they are paying this price for? You see women with guns. It's not something, I'm completely against the gun controls. Why should anybody need a gun? Guns are to be kept by the government. Why do citizens need guns? So how are we going to address this issue? We talk about genocides. This is a genocide. So what are we going to do? How do we bring in more peace with more dialogue? What can India's role be to protect both the nations and stop this genocide? It's just to see helpless citizens running. And are we going to talk about Russia's aggression as well? And I'm not saying this, our relationship is wonderful, but even if we have a good relationship with somebody, if there is something which we feel is not good, I think it's our moral duty to raise it. Everybody's talked about India's relationship with Russia. I'm so glad, because this entire session, all we heard is bad things about the first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. But today, this is a great opportunity. I think life is a full circle. That today, we are praising Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and that's the legacy. Legacies don't just come from parties and organizations. These are the legacies that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has given us, and that's where India is starting. And this entire debate is from a relationship where he stood and where he's brought India to, and it's the same foreign policy where we are. Especially, I'd even like to put it on record, it's not just the Russian foreign policy, but even for what we did with America, I would like to put it on record that Dr. Manmohan Singh ji, when we had the nuclear deal with America, it was Manmohan Singh ji who led that dialogue, and how our relationship with Russia, with America, all superpowers, we have done exceptionally well as a country. And I still remember Sushma ji, Arun ji, everybody supported it because it was in the larger interest of this nation. I still remember President Bush saying, if Dr. Kakodkar approves of, we will sign it. It was on a lighter note that showed how deep the relationship was of trust. So I think that's something we need to definitely discuss. Just one small point I'd like to raise is that the Honourable Minister talked about oil and disrupted growth and the shock of inflation that the government is going. He talked about oil prices. We have many solutions. It's just the timing of the oil prices going up. When there was elections going on, the war had already started, oil prices had already. So the only reason, since he was defending it, I'd like to put it on record that oil prices do fluctuate, but just to blame it all the time on something else. Maybe we can use the cess. You take this government, every government collects a lot of cess, and with the COVID situation, with all the price rise going on, is there a solution that we could use some of our cess, which we could do that? And a last point, sir, I'd like to say, he talked about, Hardeep Puri ji talked about colleges and universities, and how we could not help our children because our children didn't get clear signals. Why could we not reach out to the universities as well? So when he was there and making several calls, maybe we should have reached out to universities. So there, lot could have done. I'm not saying nothing was done. A lot, in his reply, he said that children didn't want to come back in his intervention because universities were giving them mixed signals. So country versus, and the children are torn between this. And one last question, sir, that whatever's happened, you've done a great job. There were hiccups. I understand it was a crisis. It can't be flawless. But now what next? When these kids have come back, some kids have come back during COVID and now kids back, what is the specific intervention the government plans to do for the future of all our children have come, and what is the larger goal in this new global situation? You see what's happening in Pakistan, what's happening in Sri Lanka. We're trapped in a situation, I would use the word trapped, because of all our neighbors. There seems to be some instability, so India is going to go through a very difficult time resolving all these issues. It's not going to be an easy road, it's going to be a slightly difficult for you. So I think all we should really look for, sir, I'd like to quote, peace cannot be kept by force. It can be only achieved by understanding. So I expect the MEA to show a lot of understanding, and you can lead, and I'm sure we can get a better order for the world.